afternoon, sports fans from all around the globe. I am your host, Jeff Dawson, East Coast Sports Investors, and this is your midday market report for Wednesday, June 8th, 2022. And it's our weekly trip across the border to a good friend, an amazing colleague, one that just heats up the frozen ponds, and now we are ready to debut Canadian football. That's right, I said it, Canadian football. Not many people in these lanes are talking about it. Myself and Andrew talked about it last year, and we're super stoked to debut it this year. So without further ado, let's bring him in, the one and only Mr. Andrew McInnis.
One door closes, another door opens, Jeff. Here we are. NHL season is winding down, and the CFL season is about to start.
I talked to you before the show started. It was comical. So yesterday, Breakfast Bankroll, our buddy, the mayor of Vegas, the real Vegas, Dave Sharapan, enlightens us for our typical hour show. And I think it was at like the 53-minute mark. He throws out the soft lob and says, "Hey, we're going to have some hard-nosed hockey tonight, Rangers and Lightning." And then I leaned into the mic and I said, 4-1 Lightning. And then the bells started going off in his head. He goes, "I think we can get an exact price somewhere, JD." He goes to FanDuel, and it was 14-1. Now, here's the comical. After the show, me and Dave are talking, and I says, "I can see it now. It's 3-1, empty net. The first shot just misses, and then with 10 seconds left, it hits the post. Final score 3-1. We were laughing. Well, I was working. I didn't have the game on, and I was working. And one of our clients, good friend, Mr. D-Mac, reaches out, goes, "Holy shit, 4-1 final. You called it on the bankroll."
Man, I'll tell you. I mean, first of all, I have to ask you who's going to win the Grey Cup this year instead of you asking me. And second of all, I'll ask you who's going to win the lottery tomorrow, because, I mean, hey, it wasn't luck. That's skill. Great call by you there. I had the under, so I was hoping that we wouldn't get any more than one empty net goal. But, wow, what a call. And 14-1. I'm happy Sharapan looked up those numbers just to be able to solidify how great of a price that is. So, and I love the confidence, too. You know, him saying it's going to be hard-nosed hawk. I can see you just, lean into the mic and just tell him casually, 4-1 Tampa. So, great call. Congrats on that one. And hey, an empty netter, that was all planned.
And ECSI doesn't usually get those, so it was a blessing in disguise. We're going to talk CFL debut. We're going to talk about the matchup, some numbers, give us a little breakdown on your preseason thoughts. Before I jump there, Andrew, because next week we could be talking Stanley Cup. Obviously, the Avs sitting and resting could have 12 days off. If I saw it correctly, I think it's June 18th, the first game of the Cup. Tampa, now 2-2. The home teams have survived. Vegas has now flipped the switch. I checked Circa this morning. Lightning minus 170 again. Rangers plus 150 to win the series. What's your thoughts? It's the best of three. Someone's got to win two. Obviously, if no one cracks on home ice, we're going to see a game 7. You talked about it after the first two games. It's not a series till a road team wins.
And I think it's such a cliche, but especially with a series like that, I think it was really important to mention it. When I looked at that Tampa Bay Lightning team, I thought, albeit they had a good first period in game 1, didn't end up winning the game. I thought they just didn't look like themselves throughout those first, maybe the game and a half. And I really, truly believe a lot of that was due to the 8 days off, in New York, playing so well in front of their home crowd at Madison Square Garden, getting the matchups they want to get. And now I take a look at what we saw in Tampa Bay. That last game, the game 3, Jeff, I'm a little bit on a different opinion than some people, and I have a strong opinion on this, that I think that New York was up 2-0, but I thought Tampa Bay played incredibly better 5-on-5 than the Rangers did. I thought that was their game if you take away special teams. And, some people might say, well, it doesn't make sense because Tampa Bay scored their 2 goals besides the winner on special teams as well, and I understand that. But when I look at things, it was a penalty-filled game. And when the game was not on special teams, I thought Tampa was playing better hockey. And Steven Stamkos, to me, said it best after the game. We want to limit our penalties, stay out of the box, and try and get behind their D. And when I look at kind of how they played in game 4, that's kind of what I saw. A mixture of top line guys are going to carry the puck in, and the bottom line guys are going to dump the puck in and try and be physical and cause havoc behind the red line. And that's really what we saw. But having said all of this, I think that the last change is very important in this series. I think that home ice, the crowd, is actually very important in this series. So I think that we could see a zigzag, and then Tampa Bay takes it in game 7. I have Colorado beating Tampa Bay in the Stanley Cup final.
And we cashed Colorado plus the 130 or 135 to win the Western Conference. We do not have either the Florida or the Leafs in the East. We were wrong on both of those. I'm going to give you two numbers. And I called the first one. Dave said he spoke to someone, and his number was a lot shorter, so I was surprised there. But tell me what you think here. Avs minus 195, Lightning plus 170. And here's the real shocker. Avalanche minus 315, Rangers plus 265. All odds at Circa.
That's a big one. That is a big one there for a Stanley Cup final there. Look, what I'll say about that is that, first of all, sometimes the favorite wins. Sometimes the favorite goes to the big dance they're supposed to go to. And I think that's what we've seen from Colorado. I've heard a lot of people saying they haven't been as impressed with Colorado as they thought they would be. And I'm a little confused by that, Jeff, just based on what I've seen from them and how they've been able to fight through adversity. Sure, there's been some games where their defense has let in, some goals, or Kemper or Francouz maybe let in a weak one here or there. But that game where they solidified and punched that ticket to the Stanley Cup, who scored the game winner? Who was it that locked it in? Because it wasn't McKinnon. It wasn't Kadri, of course. It wasn't Makar, Rantanen, Landeskog, Nichushkin. It was Arturi Lehkonen, a deadline pickup that's a 200-foot player. And I'm not just saying that because he's a former Canadian player. What I'm saying is that they just are so well-rounded. They've got several defensemen that can play and jump in the rush. Eric Johnson now, Devon Toews, Cale Makar. Cale Makar had a 5-point night, and I saw people on Twitter in the first period saying he's having a bad game when he already scored a goal. It's just absolutely ridiculous to me. I think the best way to go about it, and I'm sure that, you've talked about this stuff too, is that if you want Colorado, you're taking McKinnon or Makar to win the Conn Smythe. That's what you're doing, because it's the same way people are talking about Curry to win the MVP in the NBA Finals. I think that's what I look at here in the NHL. And some people might say, well, you get limited on those kind of bets. Not anymore. Back 10 years ago, maybe you would have got limited on those. But with how many books there are out there these days, how common betting has become, and I guess I should say mainstream, you're able to punch those bets in the same way you would be able to punch in a serious wager. So I think for the average bettor, if you want Colorado, you're taking a look at a guy that they're calling the next Bobby Orr to win the Conn Smythe Trophy, or Nathan McKinnon, because what's funny, Jeff, is that Makar is actually now the favorite I saw at FanDuel, and McKinnon is second to him. So it could be actually a good time to jump in on McKinnon to try and reach that cup. And honestly, I don't know the guy personally, but I think it's a pretty cool. He's from my area. I got to see him play for his home team. They won a President's Trophy, which is their league's cup. That they won the Canadian Trophy, which is the Memorial Cup. And now for him to last year at the podium, not really be too polite about it and say he hasn't won shit in 9 years, and then this year to be where he is, I'm rooting him on. I hope he brings it home to Halifax.
We can't wait. We're sitting in the catbird seat. Some got plus 330, some got plus 335. The one downside, obviously, is the Avs to have 11, 12 days off. We saw what happened at Tampa with 7 or 8 days off there. Do they have the ring rust? You look back, they lose one game to Nashville, they lost two to the Blues, and they swept Edmonton. So there's not a crack in the armor. I can't state it enough. The 2-0 lead to Vegas, then losing the next four, they had to sleep in those beds for the whole summer. And it was definitely a wake up call, a chip on their shoulder. And as you said, we talk about the Bruins. The Bruins are one line, now no head coach, which is a whole nother show for you and I. And then, these guys go 3 and 4 lines deep. And you talked about Kadri. Probably, I don't think we'll be ready, but with this rest, who knows? They're hockey players. If it was a football or an NBA player, he'd be out for the season. We know that. But with that said, it's going to be interesting, definitely. And really, can the Lightning step on MSG's crowd, get out early? Because if they get down 2-0, the pressure's going to be on them to come back home, win game 6. And as we talked about it at length, the one man that can stop the Lightning from going to their third cup is behind the pipes, Mr. Shesterkin.
Absolutely. I've heard you say that countless times and prove to be right. He's a great goaltender, and I think they have to get him moving laterally. They have to pepper shots. One thing kind of funny, though, is that yesterday I stepped out and I decided to take the Igor save prop over, I believe it was 33.5 that I locked in. It actually ended up coming close near the end of the game, but throughout the entirety of the game, didn't look like we were getting there. The funny thing is that my reasoning was that I thought, just like we saw in previous games, Tampa Bay was going to throw the puck from all angles. But it was actually, a lot of times you hear coaches say, like, don't be picky, right? Don't be fancy. Don't try and be too cute. It was actually exactly that, which is what Tampa Bay did yesterday. I mean, that goal that Maroon scored to open the scoring, that was off a rebound, and that those goals are great. But if you look at the other goals, they're getting him moving laterally. Get Shesterkin moving around in his crease, so he's off balance and a little confused. So I was shocked that the shot count was down for the Tampa Bay Lightning, but they played their best game of the series so far. Any thoughts on that?
You're spot on. I think we just throw away game 1. Okay, it was just rust, whatever you want to call it. Game 2, they fed off of the crowd. Game 3, obviously up 2-0. The Rangers. That was, if they end up losing the series, they're going to look back to that. The fact that we had them up 2-0 in their building for game 3, we let them off the hook. Tampa dominates game 4, and now it's anyone's series. But the one thing is that they're the 2-time defending champs. They have momentum. We know what Vasilevsky's all about in these playoffs. And actually, no, the streak was broken. I was going to say they are now 17-1 after a loss the last 3 years in the playoffs.
And it's funny, actually, because they talk about that streak, and then all of a sudden when the streak ends, Vasilevsky's just someone that no one cares about. I mean, nobody talked about him, in game 3 as much as they talked about him before game 2. And you look at even, game 4, kind of what you saw from his performance, and all of a sudden no one's really hyping him up anymore. It's like almost like his streak was his coolest thing. I mean, I don't know. Maybe that's just what I saw online and from the broadcast, but people are still saying things about him. But it's almost like that streak was his only accolade, and once that's over, they're done talking about him. He's still a great goaltender, and it's not often that you can enjoy games, Jeff, when you're on the under. But in this series, I've been able to thoroughly enjoy, maybe not the third period. I'm not going to lie to you. Maybe not the third period, 5 minutes to go, but I've been able to enjoy the series and watch the game thinking that, hey, we're going to see a good hockey game here. And I still think I'm going to go under, and that's what happens when you have two goaltenders like this. And the magnitude of getting the first goal is so huge that I would tell people, if you like the Rangers, jump on the first period, or even go first period, or half unit first period, half unit full game at that nice price that you're getting. The good news is, when you get that first period, I've said it before, a 1-goal lead for Shesterkin is like a 2 or 3 goal lead for Mike Smith. I mean, that's the difference between a goalie like that and other goalies, So in all seriousness, I think it's really important that they jump out and get that first goal.
All right, my friend, the debut of the CFL 2022 season. We have 4 games on the docket, one tomorrow. Montreal Alouettes facing the Calgary Stampede, one on Friday, 2 on Saturday. Give all the viewers Andrew McInnis outside looking in preview initially for some of the teams, maybe a couple players, some people that are not as fond, or it's not the NFL, therefore I don't watch or anything like that.
So I guess, just real quick, one thing I'll say about the CFL, the contracts aren't as long. So players are constantly moving around the league. Some people don't like it. Some people do. I think it's really interesting as a handicapper and a bettor because every summer is something a little bit different. Something's new. This key player. And it's not like they're not loyal. It's just kind of how the league works. There are players that play on teams for a while, but lots of times you will see, players walk. A great example this year we have the Winnipeg Blue Bombers. Their running back, their all-star Canadian legend as far as Canadian football goes, Andrew Harris. Well, he's now playing for Toronto this year. He's someone that was just an unbelievable running back for years since I was younger. This guy is pretty much carrying the load of this team. He's one thing that made them so great because it's so important to have a solid running game. With just the short couple downs in the CFL, you want to have that great dual threat with throwing and running. So the 2 guys below him on the depth chart last year, Jeff, did such a good job when he was injured, and he has been known to be a little injury prone, that they said, you know what, we're going to rock with these younger guys and let Andrew Harris walk. So him going to Toronto, a couple other guys going there makes that team interesting. But I think the Blue Bombers, people might not have as much respect for those running backs that are competing for the top spot as I do. I think they're still great, and I like what I saw from them last year when they filled in for Harris, and I feel like we'll see the exact same thing. Obviously, the Winnipeg Blue Bombers were the defending back-to-back Grey Cup champions. They're going for a three-peat this year. The Ottawa Red Blacks were a absolute fade train last year. I think I went against them one time last year, and I bet on them, I think, one time the entire year last year, and it lost, and I pretty much regretted it a quarter into the game. And so the reason why I bring that up is not only to talk about what they've done in the offseason, but to just, tell people out there with the CFL, it's kind of like what I tell people with goal scoring props or props in the NHL. If you lose one or something that you thought about a team didn't come true in week 2 or week 3, don't be afraid to still think that after and go ahead on it in week 4, week 5, And I think that with the CFL, the advantage we have, and I was saying to you off air before we came live here, I'm excited this year because we're seeing more normalcy, the traveling and the scheduling and all that stuff. We're going to have the advantage of getting lines posted on Monday or Tuesday now instead of on game day on Thursday, Friday, Saturday mornings, which gives us the opportunity to jump on these soft lines, to jump on these totals before they move. And, with a team like Ottawa, here's what I'm going to say about them, Jeff, is that I think that, and I hope, we're going to see them struggle early on. We're going to see them struggle big time to start off this season. And then by the time week 3 or week 4 approaches, they're going to be a bet on team for us in the CFL. That's kind of how I look at it. Right now they're opening their season against the back-to-back Grey Cup champions. Not really the best way to start. They now have Ackland from Hamilton. They now have Jeremiah Masoli at quarterback from Hamilton, as Dane Evans won that job over him in the playoffs last year. There was also some injuries and stuff like that. But I talked about key players and quarterbacks moving around. I think Ottawa's found their guy as far as quarterback goes. But, we'll see how long it takes for that chemistry to develop. So, looking at the East, I think it's as wide open as it's been in a long time, looking at Hamilton, Montreal, Toronto, and then, of course, Ottawa. As far as ATS goes and against the spread, I think they'll be very competitive after about 3 or 4 weeks into the season. So Um, Looking at Toronto, they've got all the pieces. Can they stay healthy is my biggest issue with them. Montreal in the East, I'm kind of hitting you from all angles here, but I think Montreal is going to be a big over team. We'll talk about them for tomorrow in week 1. They're a team they've got an offense. They've got a top running back in the league, Jeff, but they just have 2 quarterbacks that are known to throw really untimely interceptions or pick sixes, and a defense that you and I could score a touchdown on. So I think that's going to be their biggest issue heading into this season. Hamilton, by the other hand, will be an under team, in my opinion, this year. But those are my thoughts on the East. And as far as the West goes, I don't want to ramble too long, but I'll just say I think Calgary is going to make a good run at reclaiming themselves as kings of the West after Winnipeg has dominated that division for a couple of years now. When I was growing up, it was Calgary every single year. And now we're seeing Bo Levi Mitchell, their quarterback, a lot healthier. He still has Kamar Jordan. He has all kinds of receivers that he's familiar with, a great offensive line that he can count on. And he likes to go downfield. He likes to be a risk taker. And when you're injured and have shoulder injuries, well, you can't do that. And I think last year he was pretty outspoken about the team maybe pushing him a little bit too hard and keeping him in games that he shouldn't have been in. Sounds like he's really healthy now. So I think they'll be able to reclaim and get it back. And Jeff, well, a team I came on your show last year and I talked them up and was so excited about them, the Edmonton Elks. They've got so much talent. But they just seem to be a hot mess right now. It's like one of those teams that has all these top players, but they just don't have that chemistry, and their defense isn't that strong. And they've had new coaches here and there, left and right. Their preseason was a disaster. Sometimes in different sports, you hear people maybe reading too much into a preseason. Was this guy actually giving it 100%? What were they doing? I can't tell you enough how much of a disaster it was. The coaching staff for Edmonton said that all of us should be embarrassed. Every single coach and player should be embarrassed from our preseason. So I'll just leave it at that. But looking forward to this year.
I'll piggyback off you with the futures. The on DraftKings right now, Winnipeg plus 250, and then there's a gap. Your Hamilton Tiger Cats plus 500. Saskatchewan Roughriders plus 550, Toronto Argonauts plus 600, Calgary Stampede plus 600, the Alouettes of Montreal plus 900, Ottawa Redblacks plus 1200, the BC Lions plus 1600, and your Edmonton Elks at plus 1600. Now, if my memory serves me correct, I think you were on a team to clearly win last year, the favorite on the left side, and then we were trying to sprinkle in some on the right side. If someone wanted to get a little future to start the opening week, where's your swings?
What did you say it was on Calgary again? I really do think it's a great number there on them. What was it that you mentioned? Plus 600. Yeah, that's what I saw the consensus was for them. I think that's the way to look here, Jeff, because I think it's going to be as competitive as you get in that division between Calgary and Winnipeg competing for that top spot. When they're healthy, I think they're rolling. They've got, to me, the familiarity is the biggest thing with them. I talked about, a few moments ago about how in the CFL you constantly see change with rosters, key defensive players, key offensive players, quarterbacks, head coaches, just moving around the league. But in Calgary, you haven't really seen that too often, which I think has been really solid for their team. And now that they're a lot healthier, they've got a great running back as well. I think that will help them big time at plus 600. It's easy for everyone to say, you know what, Winnipeg's going to just do it again. But I think Calgary is going to say not so fast. So at 6-1, I think that we're getting pretty good odds on that. I think Saskatchewan might surprise some people this year. But their offense can be so hit or miss. Their defense I count on, but they're one of those teams that they can hold a team to, 17 points and somehow still lose a game. So I have to see more from Saskatchewan. I feel like they're going to be an up and down team, but I think Calgary's the future there for me.
Just going to take one quick look here for you. Winnipeg plus 120 to win the division. You can get that Calgary team at plus 300 to win the division as well.
And I think that that's great value. Like I said, everybody and their mother are betting Winnipeg right now. Anybody that bets CFL football is thinking that it's going to be a breeze for them. And we're going to get big spreads on Winnipeg too. I'm interested to see how they are as an ATS team. As far as the East Division, I think that you're going to get a great price no matter where you're shopping around on Toronto to win the East. They're a team that has made some great moves. They've got a great coach and a team that struggled for years. And then they won the Grey Cup out of nowhere. And then they went back to struggling for years. No joke. I mean, out of nowhere, they just won the Grey Cup and then they struggled again. So if they can stay healthy, I think they have weapons on both sides. But their defense is actually what impresses me the most. I like the changes they made on offense, but their defense is really reliable. And I feel like that could get them all the way. So to win the East, I think there's value on the Argonauts to win that.
If I told you per DraftKings currently, Hamilton plus 150, Toronto plus 170, and then the Alouettes plus 400, Ottawa in the rear at plus 600. So there's a 20-cent difference between Hamilton and Toronto right now.
I think that makes sense. But I also think there's lots of unknowns for Hamilton. They did get rid of a few players. They lost Jeremiah Masoli. I think Dane Evans is going to be the man for Hamilton. I think it was the right call for them to keep him, but he still has never been a full starter throughout an entire season. He's kind of just been that fill-in guy when the number one guy was injured. So look forward to seeing how this team kind of the makeup of them. But I look at Toronto and just see how well-rounded they are. And I like their coaching staff. I think that's the best bet to make here. If you want to bet on Ottawa, I could send you a lot of great charities to put that money towards instead of betting on them to win. Like I said, Montreal is going to be a fun team, Jeff, but I really don't like their defense, which is why in the first game, I'm interested in looking at points in that one, actually. First game of the week.
Tomorrow, 9 p.m., Montreal Alouettes at Calgary. Currently at DraftKings, Calgary minus 3.5, minus 110. You can get the Alouettes at plus 3.5, minus 110. And over under flat 48. Money line, Calgary minus 170. And the Alouettes money line plus 150.
So look, I've taken a look at the samples from the past 2-3 years in the CFL. Weeks 1 to 3, due to the different shape of teams, has constantly led to unders. Sometimes you think that, and I'll say this with different sports like hockey, that players will forget their defense and remember their offense, and we'll see overs early on in seasons. I like unders in CFL throughout the first 3 weeks of the season, and I expect an under week. I think at least 3 out of 4 games could go under the total, but not this one and not the very first game of the week, Jeff. I mentioned Calgary. I talked about that strong offensive line. Talk about Bo Levi Mitchell and his shoulder and how he's feeling much better. And then you take a look at the numbers that they put up in the preseason, blowing teams out of the water, putting up over 25 points in all the games they played in. The quotes I'm seeing out of how diversified their pass catchers are, it just seems like they're ready to play in some high scoring contests. And their defense has been solid, but I think that we can see Montreal throw on them with how many targets they have as well. And what I like about both these teams is that, you know, CFL, it's a 3-down sport, obviously. Sometimes you do want to play it safe, but there are also teams that like to go downfield. They like to, you know, catch you off guard early in your possession and go for that 40 or 50-yard pass. That's what I like out of them. Oh, yeah. Also, Bo Levi Mitchell somehow turned into a turnover machine last season. Could have been due to his shoulder, but, you know, some might say that turnovers would be good for an under. I think they're good for an over because we could see him throw the ball away in his own end. You know, we could see a pick 6 from Vernon Adams Jr. That's the quarterback for Montreal. And one thing that's interesting about the situation in Montreal right now, it's two quarterbacks that could be number ones, right? Not really a clear 1-2. So Vernon Adams has Trevor Harris breathing down his neck, just waiting to get his shot. I wouldn't be shocked if we see Trevor Harris in week 3 or 4. So we're going to see a guy in Vernon Adams Jr. play it safe, but also know he has to make those big plays in order to stick out and be the man and the guy. And I think we're going to see some points tomorrow night. So looking at what I've seen from them just in the preseason, all the coaches' quotes, the chemistry early on at training camp, I think tomorrow is the game we kick off the season with a bang and get some good plays here in the opening week.
So I take it you are leaning over 48.
48, yeah, 48.
Friday, Ottawa at Winnipeg. Defending two-time champs, Blue Bombers, -9.5, -115. Kind of DraftKings telling us next move could go to a flat 10. You can grab Ottawa +9.5, -105 right now. That under over also at 48, -110, either which way. Money line, Winnipeg -490 and Ottawa +360.
So here's the thing. I was waiting on information about William Powell for the Ottawa Red Blacks, the running back for them, and it's not looking good. It was questionable, then doubtful. So there's just, like I said, Ottawa's a team that is going to be a bet on ATS team in probably 2 or 3 weeks. But I mean, Jeff, to get the back-to-back champions looking to prove that they're ready to do it again with a couple new pieces on the receiving position. And like I said, Andrew Harris, a veteran at the running back position, moves on, goes to Toronto, and now there's the young bucks in town taking over the running back position. Winnipeg is going to be hungry. I don't really see what we always say in hockey, a Stanley Cup hangover. I don't see a Grey Cup hangover from Winnipeg in this full season. I see them starting things off with a bang here. Ottawa has proven that they have a very young and inexperienced team. Bringing in Jeremiah Masoli, bringing in Jalen Acklin will help, will make a difference on the team, but not right away. And I will say this, Hamilton had a very strong offensive line. So Jeremiah Masoli was never really running for his life in Hamilton, unless there was some injuries. I'm curious to see what life is like for Masoli in the pocket when it starts collapsing for him. And he's not as much of a mobile quarterback as you usually see in the CFL. And I think that will be a very tough task for him to deal with. So it is week 1. It's a big number, but I'm laying the points with the Bombers to get it done. And again, I'll remind people watching, I still think that Ottawa could be a team that could grow and progress. And it's important to watch the market and see how they react to this. But I could see, 27, 30 points from Winnipeg, and Ottawa just won't be able to trade with them this weekend.
And I was going to actually piggyback right there, just doing the basic ECSI math here. You got probably in my head Winnipeg penciled in at 28. My guess would be their team total would be right around 28, juiced over. Ottawa 17, and you talked about they won't be able to trade punches. The under-over is at 48. So obviously 28-17 gets you to 45. So is it that 28-17 cover? Is it 30-20 with the over? Pretty intriguing right there.
It is. And I think that the total doesn't depend on Winnipeg. The total depends on Ottawa. So I think if you're interested in the total in this game, I would probably look towards taking a Winnipeg Blue Bombers team total over maybe. But I think that at the end of the day, I'm also talking about how I don't think Ottawa can trade punches. So it could be an opportunity for a team total under, but I would mostly like to do that in the first half if books do offer that, because there could be some garbage points. But the thing is in the CFL, and obviously this is the case in other football leagues as well, but you have to, with the 3 downs, some teams are a lot more conservative, right? When they're running the ball, when they're throwing the ball, when they're going to go downfield. It's just different than the NFL having 4 downs. So The play calling will be really interesting for me. And what I've read from the coaching staff for the Red Blacks, it sounds kind of elementary here, but they're going to try and just get confidence, right? They're going to try and just get the ball in the hands of guys they can rely on, make the simple plays. And if they're making simple plays against a team that's won back-to-back Grey Cups, that's not going to win you a game, let alone keep you in the game. And then once that game starts to slip away from you, all of a sudden those simple 5 to 10 yard passes are going to have to turn into 15 to 20 yard passes just to try and stay in the game. So it's interesting to see the quotes from Ottawa because it's almost like, Jeff, what I've read, the team is like expecting to lose. And they're saying, I'm just curious. They're pretty much saying, like, it's an interesting test to show us where we stand. I haven't seen one quote that says, like, yeah, we think we can go in there and win. It's all like pretty much them saying, like, it's going to be a good test for us, you know? So it doesn't really give me much confidence for how they're going to be able to trade points. And I can't believe I haven't seen one person saying they think that their own team could win.
It reminds me of the 2 decades with the Patriots, the Super Bowl champs, and who's going to be the sacrificial lamb that comes in opening week when they raise the banner. And the Patriots were always 6.5 point favorites against the Steelers. And then in come the Chiefs. They were 6 point favorites to the Chiefs. So I can understand exactly where you're coming here. And you talked about hangover, no hangover. And sounds like you're leaning towards the fact that A, Ottawa doesn't have enough bullets, obviously, and B, not expecting the hangover. Therefore, should feel comfortable with a double-digit win here.
Exactly. And I think it's important to get the hook. It's open at 9, then 9.5. I think it's nice to get that before it moves to 10 on the dot. And you're going to potentially even see it move closer to game time. That injury is huge, though. Ottawa does have a great running back, and the fact that we've seen it turn from questionable to doubtful, it's huge because in the CFL, not every team utilizes their running back as much as another one will. But when you do, you want to get some key yards out of them. And they do have a guy that can do that. Unfortunately, it's early in the season, and he's already going to be missing in the lineup.
For the weekend, Andrew, 2 games Saturday night, Hamilton Tiger Cats at Saskatchewan Roughriders. Currently, Roughriders -2.5. Under over, finally a little lower, 47.5. And money line, Saskatchewan -135. You can grab the Tiger Cats at +115. That's a 7 o'clock kickoff. And then at 10 p.m., the Edmonton Elks travel to the BC Lions. Currently, BC Lions -3.5, juiced -115 under. Little tip there that it might go to 4 before it goes to a flat 3. Under over again, flat 48s. Money line, BC Lions -170, Edmonton Elks +150.
So Saskatchewan, Hamilton, 2 strong defenses. A Saskatchewan team that found themselves in some high-scoring shootouts last year, but if you ask them what kind of games they see themselves being in, we talk about it in hockey. Some teams are comfortable in 2-1s, and some teams don't mind getting in the high-scoring games. Saskatchewan's best player a lot of their times is their kicker, Brett Lowther. I mean, sometimes, and more than often, he's their leading scorer on the team. If there was an over-under field goal prop in the CFL, I'd be betting that with him every single week. But the crazy thing is, Jeff, when they get victories, sometimes it comes when they score 17 points because their defense is that rock solid. Hamilton, like I said, they've got some things to figure out still. They've got some pieces that got moved around. Now the team belongs to Dane Evans. I think the under is the play here. But most importantly, I'm looking at the first half under before these teams have to open things up and start throwing the ball downfield. You can get about 21.5 on that. I really like the first half under in that game.
And with a full game total of 47 and a hook, so that I think you're spot on there. Good eyes there, by the way. People would look at a 47.5 and say, okay, the under over is going to be 23.5, maybe 24. When you're seeing a 21.5, they're telling you right now 14-7, somewhere in that area. You could get the 10-10 first half or something like that. Good eyes there, my friend. Good eyes.
I learned from the best, trying to watch these markets like you, or the markets, as you tell me out the gate in the intro there. So I do have some best bets going. Obviously, in the bottom of the screen, the package is there. The ECSI promo code ECSI 15 takes $15 off my CFL package for this week. But another total play I really do like. You're getting two best bets, my two favorite plays in that package. But another play I really do like for this week. I talked about it earlier. Nothing wrong with making fun of yourself, and if you do it, Jeff, you beat people to the punch with it. And last year, I really liked Edmonton. I really liked the Elks, and they still have Emmanuel Arsenault. They've got Darrell Walker. They've got so many guys that can make plays. It's just, to me, when I look at their team, they're in shambles. They don't have any chemistry. Their defense looks like a little bit weak, and the coaching staff is pretty much brand new, which is what they tried to do last year. Last year, I was telling you that I liked them because the coach that they had was familiar with all their star players. He's gone. A lot of those star players aren't there anymore. There's still a couple of them, but we pretty much heard the coaching staff just say that he's ashamed and embarrassed of the training camp they've had. And it's Chris Jones. He's a guy that's been around the CFL for a long time. He's already been a part of the Saskatchewan organization before. He ended the year with Toronto last year as I don't know what, they gave him a weird label, like defensive consultant or something. It was some weird title they gave him, but he came in and made a huge impact on that team in just a few weeks. I think he will make an impact on Edmonton, but it won't be early on. You know, I mentioned quotes a lot, and in football, that means a lot to me early on. Other sports, I'm not someone that always just leeches on to quotes, because I think that players that play a sport every day, like basketball or hockey, can just say whatever and we'll believe them. But with football, you can kind of get good training camp and, off day quotes from players and coaches. And sometimes coaches just tell you what to bet, and they're telling you that their offense isn't looking strong right now, and they look a little bit up and down defensively. So I like the under in their game against BC, but this time I'm going to go full game, Jeff, because I think that we might see a play or two out the gate, but I think you give me a full game, I expect some nonsense to happen. Lots of 2-and-outs, not 3-and-outs, 2-and-outs here this weekend, and I think that'll be a low-scoring game between Edmonton and BC.
The scroller's been going the whole time here. You can follow Andrew at McInnis Picks at Wager Talk. It's Sports Mayflower. You can run over to YouTube at Mayflower Sports. Hit the subscribe button. It's free. Please do that. Promo code this weekend, ECSI 15. That's right, ECSI 15. Grab yourself $15 off of, Andrew's best 2 CFL plays. As we close every week here, the platform, the stage is yours. Tell everyone where they can find you, follow you, and all the good things coming the rest of the summer and this fall.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to the CFL season. I do have a CFL package for the full season available, but every week that I've joined with you, I'm looking forward to breaking down the CFL. I'll always be transparent with my results. We'll discuss. I know you always have asked me how the week was prior and what I thought of it and how I did, and I'll always be transparent with the viewers. And the best bets, of course, will be kept a lot to Wager Talk, but I'm going to give out several plays, whether it's team totals, sides, or totals. But I will say this. If you're interested in my CFL plays, like I mentioned earlier in the show, you don't want to be buying them from me on Saturday morning. You want to be buying them on Wednesday morning, Tuesday morning, Thursday afternoon. That's when you want to get these plays. Get the best number. One of my top plays has already moved a little bit, and you don't want to let that happen to you. So if you don't like CFL or you haven't really gotten into it, give the league a chance. Bigger field, bigger end zones, different style of football, and I'm sure you can get behind it. Oh, yeah, and the good news is it's not like one of these other leagues that's going to just last 1 year, like the XFL or the USFL. It's been around for a long time, longer than the NFL, actually, Jeff.
100%. And I like how you said that. I think for most public or degens, as we're getting closer to July, August, and then obviously September, they got their chests out. because they're going to crush the bookies. It's football season and they know everything. Look out this year. This year is my year. You said something that is so imperative. In the NFL, the lines for the following week, and the same with college, come out Sunday and Monday morning. By the time you go to the window on Saturday or Sunday, it's like at a dump as the seagulls are picking through the carnage. Those numbers have been picked through so much, you're not even close to the good number, the right number. And the problem with most people is this, is if you give out a play at minus, let's say 5.5, and at kickoff it's 8, there's that FOMO again, Andrew. Shoot, I didn't get the 5.5. I didn't get 6. I didn't even get 7. 7.5, 8. They'll win by double digits. It lands on 6, 7. You got the winning ticket. The person following you waited because they just forgot or they whatever. I'll get it before kickoff. They got the losing ticket. So you cannot be more smarter than what you just said to them. Get the number when it's released. Get to the window as soon as you can before the number moves.
Absolutely. I look forward to, I really, I was looking forward to this show with you, but I really look forward to week 2, talking about what we've seen from some of these teams. Toronto has the bye this week, but talking about what we saw in week 1. And last but not least, I wanted to mention, this is for you too, Jeff. All these games this year you can find on the ESPN networks in United States. ESPN2 will be carrying lots of these games. So after the show, when I tell you my favorite pick of the weekend, I hope you're riding with me.
100%. 100%. Hey, listen, we have Dan on Friday afternoons talking Premier Lacrosse. We had him on the week before. I was watching college lacrosse. I was watching Maryland that weekend. So last weekend I got my feet wet in the Premier Lacrosse, and I am so psyched that you said that because I will be watching.
Love it.
The Canadian Football League. I have not watched one snap of the USFL. I refuse to. And there's a lot of people in our lanes on social media, it's like fish in a barrel. And it's just comical. Those guys that were saying that, I haven't seen them out there in a couple of weeks. So I was kind of wondering if the fish went dry, if you know what I'm saying.
Yeah. After they started the season 3-0 and now they're 3-5. I'm done betting this league now. I'm getting ready for college football.
100%. Always, always, always one of my favorite times of the week, the one and only Mr. Andrew McInnis. You can, again, grab the ECSI 15 promo code, get $15 off this week's CFL best package. There is 2 games there. You can follow Andrew at McGinnis Picks, at Wager Talk, at Sports Mayflower, and always run over to YouTube for us. Hit the subscribe button for Mayflower Sports. It's free. Tell a friend, tell a neighbor, tell anyone that will listen. We don't care. No. With that, if you are investing and wagering today, please do it responsibly. If you do have a problem, pick up the phone. There's an 800 number. Ask for help. Why? Myself and Andrew care. We want to see you here today, tomorrow, next week, next month, through 2022 and beyond. From myself, Jeff Dawson at EC Sports Invest, from the one and only Andrew McGinnis and McGinnis Picks, we wish everyone a blessed day. Have some fun. Cash a few tickets. Watch the CFL. It is 10,000 times better than that USFL. Trust me on that. Have a good day.